The episode opens up with Eichhorst recruiting a man at the shipyard to take him and the rest of his private 20 passengers into Red Hook by offering serious cash. The man agrees to the offer. Later, Eichhorst visits Kelly, who is sad about her failure and worries that Nora has replaced her in Zach's life. However, Eichhorst consoles Kelly, saying Zach belongs to her, and asks her to prepare for the next plan of taking over Red Hook. Meanwhile, at Vasily's place, Satrakian panics as Kelly's visit will inform the master about their location. Nora suggests making an alliance with Justine Feraldo and working with her, as she and her team have way more weapons and access. Later, Vasily visits Dutch at her apartment, who has been living with Nikki for a few days now. Vasily tells Dutch about Nora's plan, but she is unsure about leaving Nikki alone and joining the team for the mission. Elsewhere, Feraldo and the mayor are in a meeting, where Feraldo briefs him on her new plan to extend their safety strategy into Brooklyn. The mayor wants Feraldo to take a bigger move and implement her safety plan at the Upper East Side, where the wealthy constituents live. However, she is reluctant. Meanwhile, Ephraim, Zach, and Satrakian break into their meeting to warn them that the vampires have already entered Red Hook and ask them to be prepared. Shortly, the trio is escorted away by the police. Later that night, Eichhorst and Kelly along with a swarm of vampires arrive at Red Hook through the boat. Instead of paying the ship's captain as promised by Eichhorst, he asks Kelly to turn him in. Meanwhile, Ephraim and Satrakian decide to wait near Feraldo's office until Nora and Vasily return. Suddenly, Eichhorst and his minions kill the power plant employees and shut down the power of the entire area, turning off their protective UV light. Satrakian explains the vampires' possible game plan of sending in a short group of test soldiers and then following through with the entire horde. Therefore, Feraldo prepares her troops for the fight, believing Satrakian, while Ephraim, Nora, Vasily, and Zach go to the power plant to turn on the UV lights. Satrakian goes back home, knowing Eichhorst will come looking after him. In the following scene, Dutch and Nikki wake up at their apartment after hearing the noise in the street. When Dutch senses there is a big trouble, she hops out of bed, takes a gun, and decides to join the fight. Before leaving the apartment, she hands a silver knife to Nikki and asks her to stay home and be safe. After killing the first lot of vampires, Feraldo discovers there are hundreds of them waiting to barge in. Because they lack enough manpower to fight, Feraldo begins to drive through the streets with a megaphone. In order to rally the people, she claims it's a do-or-die situation and she wants their help in the fight against the vampires. Encouraged by Feraldo's words, the people join her in the battle. At the power plant, Ephraim and the others slaughter the vampires until they find the control room. Meanwhile, one of the vampires identifies Zach and Kelly gets the information, as she can look through other vampires. While Nora and Vasily try to work out the mechanics to bring back the power, Ephraim asks them to look after Zach and leaves to help Satrakian fight Eichhorst. Elsewhere, a swarm of vampires enters and clashes into a large group of civilians. Nevertheless, everyone gathers up their courage and fights back. During the fight, Dutch takes down a few vampires and is later accompanied by Nikki, who saves Dutch's life at one point. Soon before there could be any more casualties, Nora succeeds in getting back the power. Suddenly, the dispersal of UV lights burn down the vampires, and the Battle of Red Hook ends for the time being. At the power station, Kelly appears outside of the control room. Zach, who sees Kelly first, gets terrified and runs to Nora for protection. Nora and Vasily team up to protect Zach, while Vasily goes after Kelly and gets involved in a direct flight with her. Nora and Zach flee out of the power plant. Kelly eventually attacks Fett from behind, but Fett puts her in a chokehold with a metal bar. Suddenly, some worms start to seep out of Kelly's body into Vasily's hand. However, he jerks off his hand immediately and gets rid of the worms. Just as it seems that Kelly may overpower Vasily, some police officers appear and shoot at her, but she escapes. Meanwhile, Eichhorst reaches Vasily's place looking after Satrakian. As the power comes back, it infuriates Eichhorst. Satrakian, who is waiting outside the house with his sword, challenges him to fight. When Eichhorst realizes that Ephraim is also acting as a backup sniper in the next building, he goes after him. Eichhorst catches up to Ephraim and taunts him about his poor relationship with Kelly, while Ephraim hides himself behind the pile of boxes. Although Ephraim escapes from the room, he gets into trouble when he runs out of bullets. It appears that Eichhorst will turn down Ephraim. Nevertheless, Satrakian swoops in just at the right time and shoots Eichhorst with silver bullets. After Eichhorst is hurt, he leaves the fight and escapes. Next morning, the people of Red Hook revel in their victory with hugs and smiles shared all around. Vasily, Nora, and Zach meet with Dutch and Nikki, who recall the battle proudly. Meanwhile, Ephraim and Satrakian join the crew, and the gang reunites for a momentary success. Finally, Feraldo delivers a victory speech, congratulating the town for their courage and describing the battle as a turning point in the war. In the following scene, Ephraim and Dutch work together to take down Palmer. Using Dutch's tech knowledge, they prepare to spy on Palmer from a building across the street from Palmer's office. Dutch sets up a detecting laser device that can read subtle vibrations on the window glass and convert those readings into crystal clear sound. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Councilwoman Justine Feraldo meets with the Upper East Side's wealthy and influential residents to inform them that she and her SSI team will be bringing their safety project to their neighborhood. She is applauded and praised by the people until she mandates a tax of 1% of their property value to the SSI for the protection service. Additionally, she cites the example of Red Hook residents who physically aided her and the police in their fight against the vampires. Furthermore, she explains that as the residents of Red Hook paid with their blood, she now wants the residents of Upper East to pay with their wallet. Elsewhere, in search of the Oxido Lumen, Satrakian, Nora, and Vasily go through every Arfonscu's address they found in the phone book. When Satrakian explains the book is cursed and is assumed to bring death and disaster to anyone who reads it, Nora and Vasily are cautious. As they go through the Fonscu listings one by one, they enter into an apartment filled with vampires, still playing music from before the time its owner was turned. They destroy all the vampires inside and find it is not the right address. However, the next apartment they break in looks more promising as it has a bookstore below it. Since the apartment is empty, the trio starts searching for the Oxido Lumen, which is bound in a silver cover. The same day, Palmer visits Coco's apartment, walking up all 3 flights of stairs without his guards behind him. Like a commoner, he apologizes to Coco, begging her to take him back. Also, he admits loving her and is scared of losing her after living a lonely, diseased life all these years. This makes Coco even more furious that Palmer feels he is entitled to her forgiveness just because he had a bad life. However, she gives him a second chance and goes back to him. Meanwhile, Ephraim and Dutch talk about their love life and the complications they are dealing with. As Dutch leads her discussion about monogamy and society, the laser device indicates Palmer and Coco's arrival, making Ephraim and Dutch alert. Upon arrival at his office with Coco, Palmer is visited by the mayor, who requests him to meet and convince the councilwoman, Feraldo, to dismiss the tax obligation. Subsequently, Palmer agrees and states the time and location to meet Feraldo, giving Ephraim and Dutch the hint to run to the location and get ready for the shoot. Also, the duo prepares to flee on a bike ride after shooting Palmer with a sniper rifle. Elsewhere, Feraldo takes questions from an angry crowd, who refuse to pay the tax imposed by Feraldo, saying it's illegal and unconstitutional. As Palmer arrives at the scene with Coco and his security guards, Ephraim attempts to get a clean shot from their hidden spot. Anxious Ephraim finally shoots and Palmer is hurled to the ground by his security team. Since Ephraim and Dutch see a blood spatter on the glass door, they think they took down Palmer, so they escape from the shooting spot. However, it is revealed that Coco got the bullet instead of Palmer, as she lies unconscious on the ground. Soon Ephraim and Dutch can't get through the location, as they are caught by the police and taken into custody. In the following scene, Satrakian, Nora, and Vasily still search the apartment above the bookstore. As they hear the news of assassination attempt, and that the police have caught a man and a woman, Vasily reveals about Ephraim's plan to kill Palmer. While Satrakian is glad they did it, Nora is furious. Satrakian assists Nora and Vasily to help him find the Oxido Lumen, as it is the most important thing right now. However, Nora and Vasily abandon Satrakian and leave for the police station to save Ephraim and Dutch. Later at Stoneheart, during Coco's surgery, Eichhorst appears and mocks Palmer for putting Coco's life in danger. Tormented and agitated, Palmer demands Eichhorst to bring the Master and save Coco, but Eichhorst reminds him that the decision is up to the Master, and matters of hearts are not really his priority. After a few hours, the doctor tells Palmer that Coco's condition is stable but she may be brain dead if she even wakes up because of her serious injuries. Back at the police station, Ephraim and Dutch are locked in a cell together, when suddenly, Dutch is taken away. Soon the police officers leave the room, and Eldritch appears and Ephraim is surprised to see him alive. Depressed with Coco's condition, Palmer blames Ephraim for shooting and hurting an innocent woman. Hearing this, Ephraim expresses his guilt and empathy for Coco, but he points out that he definitely doesn't regret his attempt to kill Palmer. Since evil will soon take over the world, Palmer asks Ephraim to stop resisting. Also, he claims himself as the Master's partner, which makes Ephraim laugh at him and points out that the master has no reason to share anything with him. Later that evening, the master arrives at Palmer's place and drips his white blood from his finger into Coco's mouth. Shortly, she bounces back to life and rejuvenates. As she wakes up, she is terrified to see the master, but he disappears in a swoosh. After the master leaves, Coco questions Palmer, who explains his alliance with the master and that he saved her. While Eldritch is crying tears of happiness, Coco is mortified by what she has learned. Meanwhile, at the police station, the vampires start attacking the police, nearly taking down every single officer. As Ephraim is locked inside and is on the verge of being attacked, Vasily and Nora arrive to slaughter the vampires and free Ephraim. Since Dutch is missing, they ask about her to a policeman, who says that she has been taken to Mayfield Hotel. Elsewhere, Satrakian still looks for the Oxido lumen at the bookshop apartment, until a vampire appears and tries to attack him. Satrakian beheads the vampire and checks if it's the turned version of Rudyard Fonsku. Since its ear is not burnt like that of Rudyard, Satrakian realizes it is the wrong apartment. He leaves for the last address, which luckily turns out to be Rudyard's, as Satrakian finds the Oxido lumen hidden under a creaky floorboard. While Satrakian glances at a few pages of the book, someone knocks him unconscious from behind and takes the book. The episode ends with Dutch, who is chained up by her neck in Eichhorst's feeding room. Eichhorst slowly reels the chain with a wicked grin and drags Dutch towards him. Dutch tries to resist and screams. Nevertheless, her screams are lost in the padded white walls of the room. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn on the notifications so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.